Cameras are off too, right?
Not now. Cameras are on and the sound's on.
I don't see my picture.
I don't see that.
Oh, look, there we are.
Hey.
Where's that coming from? I heard that.
Are you getting any feedback?
With my earplugs in, I heard that.
Man, that was loud. That would be my phone and my fault. So,
Good job, Matt. Good job.
5 minutes late, but better late than never.
We got it.
Yeah. No, we're not going to show the
That was good, though.
Do you like that?
That wasn't quite as good as me hitting myself in the back of the head with my rod.
I didn't even see it. Nobody shared it with
but
me.
It was a good video.
It's on Instagram. It's all over. It's on TikTok. I even put it on TikTok.
It was pretty good. What'd you do? Did you just trip and fall trying to get down? I was thinking he stepped back on that pulled calf muscle.
Oh, no. You got to rewatch the video. So I didn't even think about this. But if anybody's wondering, we're talking about my epic fall. So I tore a calf muscle right before I went to Santee Cooper playing pickleball. Everybody's like, how you tear a calf muscle? I'm like, I was playing pickleball and I didn't stretch and I'm getting old and yada, yada, yada.
Yes.
And I went, yes, what? Yes,
to all of the above.
And I went to Santee and I was fishing for one on the bed. Surprise. And I was standing up on my trolling motor doing things I probably shouldn't be doing with a torn calf muscle. And if you never torn a muscle, it sucks. Like, we talked about this on the last show, but I've pulled muscles, and that's okay. But tearing a muscle sucks. Anyway, we were up on the trolling motor, and if you watch the video...
Who's we?
I was going to say, who was up there with you?
Can you tell
my wife and I. She's in my mind all the time.
Okay, that's a good answer. That's a good answer.
You like that?
That's a good answer.
My wife and my girls, they're always with me. But I'm up there, and if you watch the video, when I set the hook, my Marshall, who's a great guy, phenomenal guy, and he's making the right move. No, he gets up and he shifts to the driver's side.
I was going to say, you going to blame it on him.
If you watch the boat, the boat it does that. Well, when I lift my good leg, to go back, it catches the hydro wave.
I saw that.
And when it catches the hydro wave, my right leg ain't enough to brace me.
Yeah, hold your whole body weight right
So
now.
there I go, feet up in the air, yada, yada, yada.
But you caught the bass.
Yeah, it's funny because if I hadn't landed that fish, I'd have been mad. I'd been mad.
Everybody would.
But it worked out. Sometimes it does.
Did it cull for you? Was it a good one?
It's a 5-pounder.
Okay, that's a good one.
That gave us actually what we had today, 22 whatever. So yeah, that was the final call I made that day. And yeah. Worked out. So tonight's topic, we have a trivia question at the end of the show. We'll have a giveaway sponsored by Angler's Choice. What? Did you just watch the video, Jeff?
I just saw it for the first time.
Jeff just
How did
now
I
saw
miss
the video.
that? How did I miss
I didn't watch the whole video. I just watched you fall. That was the funny part.
You didn't care if I landed the fish or not. You just wanted to see me fall.
I got to doing something too, but yeah, I didn't go back and watch it.
We got a trivia giveaway sponsored by Angler's Choice Marine, who is the presenting sponsor of Let's Talk Fish. Sorry for the little glare on the TV. The difference now and before is what, Thrift?
An hour.
to be specific.
The sun is still up. It hasn't went down yet.
Correct. So it is.
We're going to have to get a curtain, Jeff.
We'll have to get a little curtain.
We're going to have to get a curtain.
We got a big glass window, which is beautiful because we can see
it is
spring
a nice
starting
window.
to bloom outside and the cars coming by. And anyway, all is good in the world, but we do have a glare on the screen because it's actually daylight when we do these shows now. All right. Topic tonight is we got a good trivia question, by the way, to end the show. It's a good one. But what, Jeff?
I just watched it again.
This is going to be the whole show. Every 5 minutes, Jeff's just going to start laughing at nothing.
Would you mind sharing it and watching it? Because that reel is monetized, by the way. So go ahead and keep watching it. If you
I hadn't been paying attention. I totally missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I even put it on TikTok. So this is my second video I've ever posted on TikTok. I'm not big in the TikTok world, obviously.
I don't have a TikTok.
Well, I just got one, and I posted 2 videos on there in about 6 months of having a TikTok account.
Hey, good job.
But I did today's all by myself. I even put a little song on there, and I edited the song to where it coincided with my fall.
Look at you.
It was.
Yeah,
I was impressed with
you.
myself. I really was. I got me a profile.
Hey, that's
picture.
a good idea, Ryan. Can you show the clip on the big screen right here, Jeff?
I'll take that as a maybe. No,
is it anywhere besides Instagram?
It's on TikTok.
Oh, okay. Is there anywhere besides Instagram and TikTok?
I mean, I have the video on my phone. If you want me to send it to you,
Text it to him.
Yeah, shoot that video to me, and I'll show you how to monetize something.
Goofball. Anyway, so tonight's topic is the Santee Slugfest and a Redcrest top 10. And fresh off top 10. Somebody said, Thrift's already home? Yeah. He drove all the way here just to be here for y'all.
Yep. I left Oklahoma yesterday morning at 5:30 and got home at 11 o'clock.
Oh, you drove all day yesterday.
All day.
That's
Literally
dedication.
all day.
That's dedication to his LTF family.
Well, I was actually coming home to see my family.
Well, since you're fresh off a top 10 at the Redcrest, we can go back and talk about Santee in a little bit. Talk about Grand, talk about the Redcrest, talk about that was the inaugural in-person expo, right?
Yeah, that was the first year
show.
they've actually had an expo, and I didn't get to attend, thankfully, because I was fishing. That was a good thing. 100%. I mean, I would have loved to have been there and said hey to everybody and signed some autographs, but I would rather have been fishing, and I was, so that was good. But, yeah, everybody I talked to said it went great. I know Fitzgerald had a booth there, P-Line, and they said it was a great show. And
now, they did some hunting stuff there.
Yeah,
Do you
they
know
had
any hunting companies there? Because I'd be more interested in the hunting stuff.
No, I do not. I'm sorry.
You weren't there, so I'll excuse you.
Yeah, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But everybody said it was great. Grand Lake I feel like it was a great venue for the first Redcrest with a show because, that's a huge fishing community right there around Grand, Fort Gibson, and just all the lakes in that northwest Arkansas and northeast Oklahoma range. I mean, a lot of fishermen in that area of the country. And it was a fun lake. Like the cool thing about Grand at this time of year is you've got a lot of different variables and a lot of different things in play. You've got shallow, dirty water. You've got, water up in bushes. You've got clear water. You got a little bit of everything. So it kind of plays to everybody's strength.
Well, and not to interrupt, but talk about what y'all encountered because y'all had extreme fluctuations throughout the week.
We did, and I think that screwed me.
Well, it definitely confused the fish. You could tell.
Right.
And because they were like up and down, I don't know where to go. Did we stay on the old shoreline? Did we run up to the willows? Because me, as an outsider watching in, there was fish caught on a little bit of everything.
There was.
It's like there was some caught on the old shoreline. There was some caught in brush piles that were still sitting there the whole time.
Right.
There was some that moved up to willows. There was a Bobby Lane fish that he caught at the end of the tournament.
Right.
And those had to have been fresh fish.
Yeah, those fish just showed up. Like, I think they were just getting there because let me set up the whole week. So before we got to when we got to Grand on, let's see, when did we get there? Saturday. We practiced Sunday, Monday, and then the tournament was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But starting from the time we got there Saturday, we didn't see the sunshine until the third day of the event. So we had a full week without any sunshine.
So all your practice was in the clouds?
All the practice was in the clouds, a little bit of rain. And I think that led to Bobby's win, which I'll go ahead and talk about that, and then I'll fall back on what I was doing. Because once we got those 2 cloud-free, sunny, less windy days, a lot of those fish, evidently, they pulled up shallow on the bank, and that's what Bobby utilized to help him win the event. He found the fish everyone else was looking for. He was the one to, pull in the right creek and find those fish that had moved up shallow on the back of those boat docks, up on the shallow wood and shallow bushes and things like that. And those fish weren't there 2 days prior. So they were just getting there and getting set up to start, the pre-spawn staging and their spawning ritual. But falling back to practice and what I tried to do, and eventually what led me to a top 10 finish, I just wasn't able to figure out anything else to go with it. So Matt is very familiar with what I was doing because it's something we learned to do around here in the wintertime on Lake Norman, Lake Wiley. The first day of practice, I tried to do some crazy stuff. I ran way up the river because I'd never been there before, and I wanted to look at it and just see if I could find that shallow water, needle in a haystack, and I never caught a bass the whole first day of practice. I
But
caught
that's a good way to figure out how to blow a tournament away too.
right, and that's where I was at with it. I was like, I'm going to gamble one whole day of practice looking for a needle in a haystack, and if I don't find it, I'll just fall back on something on the lower end that I've fished before, or try to find a pattern, because Grand's a great pattern lake. You can usually duplicate bites all throughout, a certain section of the lake when you figure out what they're setting on, whether it's, secondary points, pea gravel, rock transitions, whatever it is, back of boat docks. You can usually duplicate it on that lake because it is such a great pattern lake. So the second day of practice, I decide I'm going to go down the lake and try to get on a jerkbait bite. And the very first pocket I run into, most of the pockets on Grand are no wake zones. Like, they have no wake buoys at the mouth of them. They're lined with docks. They're pretty narrow. And, I think state regulations is, no wake within 150 feet of any structure on the lake. But still, most of the homeowners, I guess they put their own no wake buoys out there. And just out of common courtesy, you can't run hardly any of the pockets down there. So I sat down at some no wake buoys and start idling back in this little finger. It's probably a half a mile long, and I get to the back of it and I kind of see a little fish surface. I'm like, dang, it might be some fish schooling. And my first thought was, I'm not lucky enough for that to be bass. It's probably a stupid gar. It's probably a gar or carp or something dumb. But anyway, I keep idling and I get back there.
Carp schooling.
Yeah. I put my trolling motor down and I pan around with the Humminbird Mega Live, and I see a big ball of bait, and it's only like 15, 20 feet deep. And I see 5 or 6 fish follow them around. Well, as soon as I see that, I hadn't even picked my rod up yet. Like 6 bass blow up in the ball of shad, and I look down and like I can see the shad with my eyes swimming around on top of the water, just big, huge balls of bait, thread fin anywhere from 2 to 5 inches long. And that's something that Matt and myself, we grew up doing in the wintertime. You find those bait balls in a pocket where the water's cold and they're just very lethargic. They're just swimming around, and the bass just get in there and gorge themselves. So I caught 7 or 8 fish in a matter of 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm like, all right, we found a home, So fast forward to the 2 days later, first day of the event, I run in there. As soon as I sit down at the no wake buoys, I see them blowing shad in the back of the pocket from a half a mile away.
And you're thinking running there, because in tournament situation, you're like, I found this place, it's awesome, and I know they're not going to be there because it's tournament day.
Right, exactly.
And then they were there.
Yeah, so, they were there that day. I'm going to get to that.
At least it was a tournament day.
Right. So the first day of the event, I get in there, and I catch like 40 bass. I never crank my motor all day long until it's time to run back to the boat ramp. And I'm just in there having a ball, catching them on a jerk bait and catching them on the little 4-inch Demiki Armor Shad paddle tail swim bait. And I'm all excited. Like after the halfway through the second period, I'm pretty much just not even really throwing in the bait balls.
Cruise control.
Yeah, I'm on cruise control. I'm just like making sure nobody else is going to come in here because I'm fixing to win Redcrest in this cove. Well, sometime between 4 o'clock Wednesday evening and 8 o'clock Thursday morning, every bass in this pocket decided it was going to just swim 3/4 of a mile out to the main lake and disperse, and all the bass are going to follow them. So I get in there Wednesday morning. There's no shad anywhere. I do catch a big one. I catch like a 5.5 and a 3-pounder off the Mega Live that I just see out in the middle of the pocket. But I spend the whole first period in there and only catch those 2 scoreable bass. So then I'm in scramble mode. I've got to go find something else. And I run around and I end up catching enough to make it to the elimination round. And I know I can catch some in this pocket early. So elimination round, I've got to start there. I've got to go back in there and try to catch a couple scoreable bass just to get the day started. And then I've got 2 periods to practice and try to find something to get me on to the championship round.
What do you think was happening to make those fish start moving like that?
The only thing I can point to that actually changed those fish, and let me know if you've seen this before, because when I think about it, it makes sense, but when I think about it one way, it doesn't make sense. So what happened between Wednesday and Thursday morning, the lake came up 2 feet. And that's the only thing I can figure is the water was cold and it warmed up a couple of days and all those shad went back in that pocket. And then on, let's see, Tuesday, we had all the rain, and it was a cold rain. You know, it was in the low 40s, low 40 rain. You know, we got about 1.5 inches of rain. The lake came up 2 feet. And I think what in my mind happened was that cold runoff pushed those shad out of that pocket, and they just kind of went back out to the main lake to get in more stable water. That's what I was thinking.
Well, I would agree 100. I mean, you look at the hot holes at Norman, for instance. You look at warm water, warm moving water. Bait fish are always drawn to that, right?
Yeah.
But you look at super fresh cold mud.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. The inflow wasn't muddy.
But it was cold.
I think it was just colder. Like the water temp dropped from the upper 40s, like 49, 50-ish range to like 45, 46 range.
So for a shad, that's really...
Yeah, I mean, you're only talking a 2.5, 3.5 degree drop, but I guess for bait, that's enough to make them uncomfortable.
Well, that gets it down there to that. That's pushing that, you know, that mark to where it starts killing some.
Right.
I mean, it's a little lower than that.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
is. That's dangerous
you
for
get,
a shad.
Yeah, you get down in the low 40s and the shad will actually start dying off. So anyways, I go in there and I end up making the elimination round. So I know I'm going to start in that same pocket during the elimination round because I'm pretty sure I can at least catch a couple scorables to get the day started. And that's what I did. I ran in there and I caught 2 scorables. But one thing I did find on the elimination round in there that eventually helped me pretty much catch all my bass in the championship round was there was one little nook off of this arm that went maybe 50 yards, and a ball of shad had stayed in there. It was only 7 or 8 feet deep, and I ended up catching 6 or 7 out of it on the elimination round day. They were all non-scoreable, but I knew there was a ball of bait in there, so if I could make it to the championship round, I would have a good place to start and have a chance to catch some fish. So I ran around.
Was it any warmer in that finger?
No, it wasn't any warmer. Whoa, just knocked my phone. It wasn't any warmer. I guess just one ball of shad decided it was going to stay in the area, and what few bass stayed back there were congregated around that ball of bait. And so on the rest of the elimination round, I ran some history and caught 3 or 4 pretty quick and was feeling pretty good. You know, I kind of laid off of them because I knew I had enough to make it. And I was kind of excited about starting the championship round because I knew I had a fairly good game plan. You know, I was going to start on my bait fish school in the back of this pocket, and then I'm going to spend the rest of the 2 periods running around shallow trying to capitalize on fish that had pulled up, and kind of like same thing Bobby did. I just never found them during the championship round. But going into the championship round, I get in that little nook. I see the ball of bait on my Humminbird Mega Live, and I catch like 20 bass out of them in the first period, catch 6 scorables. I've got the lead at the end of the first period, but I know it's going away. Like, I know I'm getting out of there. This is done. I've caught everything I can catch out of it on the jerkbait and the little Demiki swim bait, and it's time to execute, you know, the second stage of my game plan starting the second period. The only trouble was the execution wasn't very well on my part. I never ran into
some fish.
No, I never lost any. I never caught a scoreable bass. Yeah, I never caught a scoreable bass after the first period. And I'm not going to say I made bad decisions. Like, I did exactly what I wanted to do, and I caught 15 or 20 bass. They were just all non-scoreable.
Well,
I didn't catch anything over 2 pounds.
Yeah, and that's what that's what I was getting ready to say. When you have a minimum of 2.0 pounds,
Right.
and you're making decisions, and you're catching, let's just say 113s.
Right.
You're making the right decisions.
Yeah, you're just
a
not,
little bit unlucky.
Yeah, just not quite getting the right bass.
I don't like using the word luck in our sport at all, but
there is a luck factor.
yeah, I mean those could have been 2 1s as opposed to 114s.
Right,
or
exactly.
Because you weren't catching like 1 evens. You were probably catching what?
Yeah, they were all like
110s and
110 to
112s.
114.
Yeah.
I think I weighed 4 114s in the third period. You know, you're talking if all of them weighs 2-1, I finished second.
Should have weighed every single one of them 3 times.
Evidently. My trouble is every time I do a reweigh, I lose
It
an
gets
ounce.
smaller.
Yeah.
Well, so in my mind, okay, logically thinking, okay, I would think if I'm going to reweigh this fish, obviously if I was in Bobby Lane's situation, I'd have reweighed it as many times as I could have, because you're talking about win or lose, right?
Right.
And poor Clausen, I felt so bad for him because he catches one that takes over Wheeler,
I
and
know.
in his mind, he's thinking, I got this.
Yeah.
You know,
Like from hearing all this after the fact, I mean, obviously I was fishing and I didn't know all that was going on in the background with all the other competitors. But once we came in and hearing how it all worked down, like that's got to be the greatest finish in bass fishing history
that
of
was,
any tournament.
for Clausen, that was the highest of highs and the lowest of
Right.
lows in a matter of minutes.
Right.
And for the format that y'all fish, it was the most exciting ending I've seen in Major League Fishing.
Right.
Now, you know, some of the
I mean, you've got 3 people that are pretty much convinced they're going to win in the last 10 minutes of the event.
Correct. And you know, and it's funny you were talking about unscorables. Michael Neal, who was on a very unique pattern than the rest of the
Right.
field, and a very, I thought, watching the tournament, I said, he's fixing to trash him in the final
That's
round.
what I thought too.
But
I thought it was over.
He had those 112s and those 113s and those 114s. He had lots of them.
Right.
And I was looking at him going, you know, as a fisherman, as a professional angler, trying to relate to what Michael's doing, and he's catching these fish and he's getting bit consistently and he's catching 114s and 113s. What do you do? I mean,
Right.
how can you change?
Especially when you look at what he had done the 3 previous days. I
Right.
mean, he was catching 3 and 4 pounders the 3 previous days.
Yeah, that's
what
I would have done
would-
exactly what he did, stayed
Yeah,
true to
like
it. He did finally make an adjustment, but it didn't work out. But
Right.
he did make an adjustment.
That's the hardest thing in bass fishing is, and every angler that fishes tournament knows this, is when you find fish and you know where they are and you've caught them consistently, that's the hardest fish to leave and go look for more fish, even if they're not biting. That's kind of always been my nemesis in bass fishing. You know, when I've been close to winning and I just can't bail on the pattern I'm doing and what I'm doing and go look for something else
If you're
as
getting bit.
quickly as I need to.
Well, if you're getting bit.
Right.
You'll
Yes,
bail if you're not getting bit.
Yeah, if you're not getting bit. But if you're getting bit occasionally, like that's the hardest thing to do is pull the plug on that and go look for something that's capable of winning.
Especially in a tournament like Grand was, when you're not getting a ton of bites. I mean, some more than others, but a lot of the guys were catching 6, 7, 8 bass a day.
Right.
You know, and when Michael's catching 15 or 20,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
just not catching that many scorables.
Yeah.
He's thinking, man, if I change, I might not even get a bite.
Yeah, and that's the same way I was, like, especially after that first day. I mean, like, literally the first day of the event, pretty much every cast I made, I either caught a bass or hung 2 shad on my jerkbait. Like, there was that many shad and that many fish in there. Like, I was like a little kid just giggling, and I was having a ball.
That's a good feeling. All right, so a couple things, real quick. Keep the questions rolling
Yeah,
in,
keep
guys.
the questions
We
coming.
appreciate
and
it.
let's touch on the whole finish just for anybody that doesn't know the layout of the MLF rules on the reways.
Oh, how it worked?
Yeah, just how
yeah.
it works. So
Explain
everybody that watched Redcrest, the final minutes, Bobby weighed the actual winning fish. He ended up weighing it 3 times.
This was with under 3 minutes to go.
With under 3 minutes to go. So the rule states in MLF we get 2 reways. So when you catch your fish and give it to the official, that's, you know, the first weighing, and you can reweigh that fish twice after that. So that's what Bobby utilized. I mean, he knew he probably didn't have enough time to get another bite, and this fish was so close, I might as well utilize all 3 of the reweighs, and he weighed it twice, and it weighed 115 both times, and lo and behold, the third time he weighed it, it weighed 2 even, and, you know, that kind of sealed the deal for him. But that was pretty cool to see, like, because the scales, they don't weigh in, you know, quarter, half, or 3/4 ounce increments. You know, it's to the ounce, you know, 16 ounces. So, I mean, you might weigh that fish and it could be teeter-tottering. You know, if it's a 115 and, you know, a half or 3/4 of an ounce, you know, that second or third reweigh, it may, you know, actually register that next higher ounce to give you the 2-pound minimum, which that's what Bob did. But it was pretty cool to see and watch it play out.
That that's funny you said that, because you know, we have a weigh and release tournament each year at Fork
Yeah.
with TTBC, because it's a slot lake. And my concern is exactly what you just said. When you get in rough water situations
Oh, yeah.
and things like that, it's hard for the marshal or judge or whoever
Right, to call an accurate weight.
to call an accurate weight.
Yeah.
Now, you meet the minimum, that's one thing, but in our tournament, you know, they weigh the fish, we turn it loose. It's a 5.3. It might have been a 5.5. Might
Right.
have been a 5.2. And in the end, ounces matter. But that's just, it's part of it. And
Yeah, especially in the 5-fish format, the ounces really matter. But like you look at our format, that 1 ounce Bobby got, that was a
$250,000 ounce.
That was 2 pounds, not an ounce.
Right.
So
That was the minimum.
Right.
So it was either this or zero.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a lot to think about. That's a lot to think about.
It is.
All right. So we'll jump over to the Santee tournament here in just a second. Real quick.
Catch up on a few questions.
Yeah, we're gonna catch up on a few questions. Keep sending questions, guys and gals. We will get to those here shortly. Real quick, want to make an announcement. There is a TBF Junior State Championship this Sunday at Jordan Lake. Buddy mine.
That's going to be some big ones caught there.
Buddy mine sent me some information on it. If anyone's interested in fishing the adult TBF, they can check out the website. Excuse me, it's tbfnc.com, and you can go to that website, get all the details on these tournaments. It's open. The Junior State Championship is open to all kids 8th grade or less. They fish as a team, and they have a boat captain. They do have to register to be a junior member in order to fish a tournament. They're doing the registration at the Bass Pro Shops in Cary Saturday evening, and they can fish the tournament if they get registered, get eligible. But go to tbfnc.com to check out the details for the adult and the Junior State Championship. So the adult TBF, I'm not exactly sure the details of when that tournament is, but it's all on the website. So, but anyway, buddy of mine texted me that, wanted me to announce it, so we're going to throw it out there.
There you go.
All right, we'll get over to. You got a question or anything you wanna throw out?
Yeah, let me go through my setup I was using at Grand while Matt's looking up some questions, and we'll start answering some questions. So, I pretty much caught 90% of my fish on a jerkbait. I was just throwing a Mega Bass Vision 110. I think that's what everybody throws. I don't know why anybody throws anything else. Anybody that says they're not throwing, that's lying.
I was watching everybody, because forward-facing sonar is such a big deal now.
Right.
And everybody's like, oh, man, he's got this secret jerkbait for that forward-facing sonar. I know what jerkbait's he throwing, what jerkbait.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Brian, it's a Vision 110.
Yeah,
it's a Vision. I mean,
110.
maybe KVD.
Yeah.
Okay, so he throws a Strike King, but more often than not, it's a Vision 110.
So I was throwing the Vision 110, but one thing that I think I do a little bit different with a jerkbait, and if you watched any of the live, I throw it on my Signature Series jerkbait rod, which is kind of a shorter rod for a jerkbait. It's a 6.6 medium heavy. And the reason I like that shorter rod on a jerkbait is if you watched live, you noticed I was doing very short twitches. Like I'm trying not to move the bait, yet move the bait, if that makes any sense. And I'll explain that a little further so when the water gets cold and those shads start dying off and they start getting lethargic, you don't want that bait darting forward a long ways when you jerk it. You want to use short little twitches with long pauses and just kind of make that bait jump and dart in place. Like you want it to kind of roll up on its side, but not really move forward at all. And that mimics those dying shad. And I tell you where I learned that little trick was from the greatest jerkbait man there is, Mr. Hank Cherry. I learned that from him.
I was say Matt Arey.
Come on, you know better than that. You know better than that.
I'm kidding.
If I would have said like the greatest subsurface swim bait man, that might have been Matt.
I don't even think that's accurate.
No, but
the clumsiest bed fisherman of all time.
All right, there you go. But you are pretty handy with your little lunker hunt fetch during the right time of year. But anyway, that's who taught me that little trick was Hank from fishing team tournaments with him back at Lake Norman. In the wintertime when that water's cold, you don't want that bait moving forward very far. You want it to just kick up on its side, act like a dying shad. And that Fitzgerald 6.6 jerkbait rod, I feel like it allows me to do that because if I get to a bigger rod, when I twitch it, it's moving that bait farther. And as you use a shorter rod and leave a little bit of slack in your line, when you do those little short twitches, that bait will just kick up on its side and won't move forward very far and just get those fish attention by looking like a wounded bait fish. So that was the setup I was using with the Abu Garcia Revo STX and 12-pound P-line tactical fluorocarbon. And I think Matt will agree, he uses all the P-line stuff as well. But when I'm throwing a jerkbait, I like the tactical over the 100% fluorocarbon because it's got a little more stretch to it. It's not quite as stiff as the 100%, so it's a little more forgiving when you're not trying to move that bait very much, and when you want those fish to really inhale that bait that's sitting still and not take it away from them by jerking too quickly. So,
and for those that don't use necessarily the tactical, which that's what Brian and I use pretty religiously, but like Brian said, the most important thing is putting a little slack in your line, using a rod with a fast tip. I don't like anything with a moderate or medium tip, but that's a really, really good tip, because there are times and instances where, you do want sweeping action and things like that. But,
as you get to the higher water temps, I think that's more of the approach you need to take.
Yep, you can do longer. I don't want to say longer jerks. I guess is what you'd say.
I mean,
it's more like
where you're moving the jerk bait, a foot to 3 feet on every jerk of the rod.
Yep. So yeah, great tips. Let's jump over to a couple questions, then we'll get in the Santee deal. I know there was one about. I'm going to go all the way back. There was a question about Bugs Island in April, and sorry, I don't know who it's from because I reset my.
While you're looking, I'm going to answer. Marty asked where you can get one of these hats, and you can go to the Fitzgerald website, fitzgeraldfishing.com. They got a bunch of different hats on there, and get you one there.
The tip for Bugs Island in April is, first of all, utilize your internet and figure out what the water level is.
That's what I was going to say.
Do what?
That's the same thing I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, Bugs Island in the spring is 100% water level related. And if it's in the bushes,
got to be in the bushes.
Do I really have to say it?
Yeah.
I mean, go to the bushes. But even if it's not in the bushes, in April on bugs, those fish are going to want to be shallow. And if the water, the only thing that would hinder that bite if you had like a drastically falling water level, and then I would look more towards some of your vertical stuff, your riprap, things like that, to where they could move up and down a little easier. The flatter stuff, drastically falling water could really impact that negatively. But I don't think you're going to see that at bugs in April, in my experience.
Not drastically falling.
Right.
You might see drastically rising.
Yeah, fairly stable to drastically rising.
Yes.
And, the bush bite ought to be phenomenal at bugs.
Right. It's
April.
Historically a great spinnerbait lake, floating worm lake. As you get later into April and the water, they're spawning, you pretty much need to be flipping, swimming a jig, something like that that's going to get down in their face when they're bedding on those bushes.
Right. What Brian just said is what I was going to touch on. When those fish go to really sit down, so to speak, like to actually spawn, and they're in those bushes, they're not as apt to come out after spinnerbait, chatterbait, swimbait, whatever it is. They might flash on it, they might come out, you might catch a few on it, but you really need to soak something in those bushes. And I don't care like how clear or dirty the water is. They'll get super shallow and they'll spawn right on the heart of those root balls. And you might not even, like, it could be clear and you might not be able to see them. And
oh yeah.
What? Oh, we just had, our doctor just came in.
I know.
But my calf's doing good, Doc, by the way. Yeah, we're on the up and up. But yeah, so
unless he heard it worse when he fell the other day.
Flipping bushes on bugs in April, put it right in the heart, yo-yo it a few times, get it out of there, flip it to the next
bush.
But
and pay attention when you're casting too, especially when you flipping that bush. Like the bushes might be pretty close together, and you could flip in one, and a fish be on the bush beside of it, and you kind of see that bush wiggle a little bit. Just hold on, because he's on his way over to your bait. So always pay attention to that.
Let it sit for a second. But all right, so that'll help you for Car Lake in April, bugs, cur, whatever you want to call it. I saw a question about Norman.
Let me scroll back, see if I see it.
Alec Robinson.
All right.
You got tips for Norman this upcoming weekend. So grab you a good pair of Costa sunglasses.
Yep.
And do what, Thrift?
stare deep into the water.
Go look for them.
Yes, go look for them. The only thing I would suggest is if you're practicing, cut the hooks off your baits because you're going to catch like 50 if you don't, and you can't look very much when you're constantly unhooking bass. And this is hands down the best time to fish Lake Norman. I took you last year about this time of year. Me and Jeff had a ball.
Wait, Jeff caught them? Yeah, they were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is the best time. So, whoever you're fishing
Best
with.
hook set ever. You can get videoed.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see footage of this.
It was funny.
So, Alec Robinson, if you're fishing with a buddy and it's a team tournament, while you're trying to zero in on some big bed fish, have your buddy just tie on a flick shake or a wacky worm, nail-weighted stick bait, whatever, wacky style, and he will get a lot of bites. And he'll catch a bonus fish or two that you'll actually weigh in your 5.
I mean, yeah, we're not saying you can't catch big fish like that because I've caught a ton of big ones on the stinger at Norman this time of year.
100%. And don't look past a big swim bait either because I've had some good days on the lunker hunt fetch. But I've had some really good days on some tater hog stuff.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
On some glide baits.
That's the birthplace of tater hog.
That's
Lake
right.
Norman.
You get some wind and the right conditions, and you could throw that glide bait, and you're not going to go out there and catch 50, but you're liable to catch some great big ones. And Norman's got some big ones.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on to that, too, especially with Norman having spots in it now.
Yeah.
Those 3 and 4 pound spots, they might bed in 6 or 7 feet of water where you can't see them, but they'll come up there and roll on that, either the swim bait or the glide bait. They'll show themselves, and a lot of times you can mark it, if they're on a dock post or on a point or on wherever they're at, just hit a waypoint, and most time you can go back and drag a shaky head or a little jig or some kind of plastic around the next day in the event and catch those fish. I mean, they'll be on the bed, but they'll come up there and show themselves on that swim bait.
Yeah, 100%. And Mike Harris, I hope to see you at Chick. He said if he gets his new bass cat in time, he's going to be down at Chickamauga next week where the next elite tournament is. He said tried to get a 520R, but too big for the garage. Oh, you need a bigger garage then, Mike. All right, so my kind wife Emily's on here. She said, guys, again, and gals, this is our second time being live on YouTube.
Right.
The viewership's been great. The feedback's been phenomenal. We haven't miserably failed in going live and staying live.
We thought we were going to tonight.
Yeah.
But Jeff saved it. He pulled it out.
Jeff
Good job,
came through.
Jeff.
But be
You're
sure
welcome.
to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the little bell
What little
thingy
bell?
on Jeff doesn't know anything about
bell.
that. The notification bell, so you're notified when we go live. Because all our Facebook viewers and things like that. If you haven't transitioned over to, did we share this on Facebook on our Facebook page tonight?
Yes.
Good job, Jeff. Jeff's on top of it. I'm telling
He
you.
is.
I didn't do it. I think Emily did it.
So my wife did it.
I went to do it and it was already done.
Oh, perfect. All right, so let's talk about. I know we got about 20 minutes and we got a trivia question. at the
Let
end.
me answer one more question from Keith here. He asked, we talked about Bobby reweighing his fish, and he asked, can you dip the fish back in the water between the reweighs to maybe pick up an extra ounce? That is a no. You
Can I
cannot
put the
do
lure
that.
back in its mouth?
No, you
and
can't
reweigh it?
do anything to try to alter the weight of the fish. Obviously, just like any other bass tournament, that would be illegal.
Yep.
So no, you cannot dip the fish back in the water until you're done weighing it and releasing it.
We can't walk off the Bassmaster stage and go dip our fish again and bring them back up there.
That
and weigh
last-
again.
The last place
don't
I'm
allow
putting
that.
my fish when I'm trying to weigh it is back in the water.
Right. That's my
Well,
luck.
now trust me. Once an angler in a tournament gets a hold of his fish, he ain't letting go of that sucker.
No, but I know how
I
I'll
can dive
do.
20 feet deep in
Says
the
the
lake and I ain't
dude
letting
that
go
fell
of
off
it.
the front of his boat.
Yeah.
Who?
If I did that, I would dip it down there and wait on him to get the scales ready or something. It'd flop out of a hand or something
Matt
like
would
that.
go down to dip it and his marshal would move and he'd fall over. Then what are you going to do? That's
Y'all
all I'm
wrong.
saying.
Y'all wrong.
Just keep it away from the water.
All right. Santee.
My favorite lake
Slugfest.
in the world. I'm jealous Matt got to go to
It was. Drift was calling me down there while I was down there.
Yeah.
Well, you catch.
I was upset.
Well,
I mean, I wasn't upset. I'm glad y'all went because I knew it was going to show out. I'm upset I didn't get to go be a part of it.
It was, if I'm not mistaken, the 2-day cut weight, which was almost pushing 34 pounds, was more than it's ever taken in 2 days. There was an Everstart there one time that was close to that.
Yeah.
It was almost 33 pounds, if I'm not
What
mistaken.
was it back when Preston won? It had to be higher then.
I want to say it was 32 something, 16
Really?
a day.
That's
I want
it.
to say that because that's
Okay,
the one. That's
yeah.
the one that hit me in my
Right,
mind.
exactly.
I'm like, because that was kind of a perfect scenario too. Backing up to practice, so there were guys from around here. There's several guys in the Carolinas that go down to Santee every year in March.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a phenomenal lake.
It is.
In small windows. It's not phenomenal 12
Yeah.
months out of the year. But they go down there every year in March, and they were down there the week before our practice started, the week before our tournament, posting pictures of these giant fish, catching them. But it was really warm.
Yeah.
Really warm. And we get down there, and of course, Bassmaster Leach rolling into town, and it's 20 degrees first morning of our practice.
It don't single y'all out. It's been the same way with us.
Well, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm trying to look at some online reports just to get an idea what the temperature was. You can tell by how they were catching them
Right.
that it was in the 60s minimum, like probably
Oh, yeah.
63
You knew they
to
were catching
66.
them off the bed. Yeah.
Right. So, and I'm looking at I look at my Lowrance the first day of practice, and it's like 59. I'm like, okay, that's not terrible. Second morning of practice is 30. And I look at my Lowrance, and it's 56 and a half. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is not a good thing for a lake like Santee. And the
But
first
you
thing-
weren't worried.
No, I wasn't worried because I'd looked at the forecast.
Yeah,
and I
and
said,
you knew
know
what was going to happen.
I said, I'm not, a lot of guys, and this is a tip for all you weekend anglers that only get limited amount of practice time. When you go the weekend before your tournament, because a lot of guys will practice Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
a week
And that's the
before
way
their
we
tournament.
started.
Correct.
That's the way Matt and myself started.
The biggest tip that I can give you, and I think Thrift would agree, is use that weekend for a couple things, and that's to kind of learn the lake if you're not familiar with it, look around, get some ideas, and always look ahead and try to figure out where the fish are going, not where they are then,
Right.
not where they are now. Because if I was to go off my practice at Santee the first 2 days, I would have had the worst tournament of my career, probably.
Yep.
And I was anticipating a big movement. To me, Santee's not like a Florida lake to where, like a Okeechobee, for example, where you don't know if 1,000 fish have already spawned or 1,000 are still coming.
Right.
But at Santee, you're like, I know most of these fish hadn't done their thing. They were trying to.
Yeah.
Some of them probably did, but the majority of them haven't.
Like that was actually the perfect storm.
The big moon,
Yep.
the warming trend, and even right now, if you'd have asked me, could that tournament be won sight fishing all 4 days, I would have said no. And the only reason I would have said no is because of the weather factor at Santee.
Right.
I didn't think a guy could actually, but Drew Cook, congrats to Drew, amazing performance, found an area, literally one pocket,
Yep.
that was the magic pocket. Santee is a lake, and Thrift knows it better than I do, and one of the only lakes in the country that I could literally admit, and I've seen it happen, where fish can come in a matter of hours and keep coming.
Yep.
And
I
you
got a
can
little-
catch them off of a bed, and in 3 hours later, you catch another one off the same bed.
Exactly.
So this really doesn't happen. Like if you think about Lake Norman and Wiley and Beaver Lake and
Right.
Grand, and
I don't think it happens anywhere else.
I don't either.
I know there was a Everstarts where it was way back when, but it exactly like what Matt just talked about. I ended up finishing fourth in the event, and for all 4 days, I caught every bass I weighed in off the same 5 beds in the same pond. I would start on one bed, catch all 5 of them, and by the time I got back to the first bed I started on, there would be another one sitting there.
And that is so. I didn't tell you.
Oh, we got to fly.
This was the first tournament that I've ever fished. Did I tell you this? That I
don't know.
caught 3 off of one bed.
Yeah, you did tell me that, and that's what I was going to say.
I caught a male and 2 females off of one
Yep.
bed. I've seen 3 on a bed before, but I've never actually caught 3 off of one bed in a tournament situation before. I mean, I have like multiple days, like the bed reload or
right,
something.
but not at one time.
Correct. Like in a
Yeah.
30-minute span.
Right.
And actually the fish in the video where I fell was one of the 3.
Off the same And that's like, you don't see that a lot of lakes. Santee's one of the few lakes you'll actually see that. I mean, you'll find a bed with 2 or 3 or 4 females on it. I mean, I've heard stories of guys catching 30 pounds off of one bed. Like
Yeah. I've heard that.
it's a very unique place.
Drew Cook caught, the funny thing was that pocket he fished, I fished the outside edges of it because I didn't want to be that guy. But Corey Johnston shared fish with him in that pocket pretty much all 4 days.
Right.
And for it to kick out what it did, the story you just told, it kicked out. I mean, you take the 5 biggest fish.
I mean, there was probably 200 plus
pounds.
pounds of bass caught out of that one pocket.
100%. And that pocket will probably never be good for the rest of Santee Cooper's life. But, well, I don't know. It might. You never know. But it was a very interesting tournament. If you watch Drew Cook, I got to give props to him because he, he calls it the cook shake or whatever.
I watched that where he's tapping the rod.
So I'm sitting here thinking about how stupid I am because all these years I'll get a bait in front of one, and every fish is different, right?
Oh,
sometimes you got to swim it and that would snap it, whatever. But sometimes you get it in front of one and I'll sit there and go like this, and I'm like getting ready to collapse or something, and all I had to do the whole time was just to be hitting the tip of my rod.
Tap it like that.
I could have just held my rod still. I'm like, God, Drew, thanks for showing me how stupid I have been all these years.
Oh, it got me thinking about all kind of things. Like you have a little iPod in your pocket and just stick some headphones to it and play some Van Halen up real loud or something like that. I mean, you can do all kind of things, send vibrations down that line.
As long as the bait's shaking.
I don't even think the bait's got to shake. I think it's just those very small vibrations that are transmitted through the rod, through the line.
I'm gonna give props to a couple bed fishing baits. Bed fishing baits are not really a big secret. I think people put too much emphasis on the actual bait more than they do the presentation a lot of times when you're sight fishing.
I agree, because if you talk to 100 professional fishermen, all 100 are going to tell you a different bait that is their favorite for bed fishing.
Or their sponsor. You know, probably. But I'm going to give props to some baits that aren't my sponsor. Now, Lunker Hunt does have a finesse crawl. They made a little compact finesse crawl. I used it, caught several key fish on it. And every situation's a little bit different. I caught a couple fish on that air crawl.
Yeah.
The air crawl is cool because the pinchers have air pockets, and McCoy and them make fun of me because I tell them about the air crawl and throwing it in the bed. And they're like, what's it do when it goes in the bed? I'm like, it goes like this. And I said, and when you start shaking, it goes like this.
Hey, that's pretty good right there.
And then
it's like ape hangers on a Harley.
That's right. It does. It looks like it.
Do that again.
It looks like
Matt did it better.
You only get
Matt did it better.
One more time.
Anyway, what he's
One
talking
more
about
time.
is the Demiki air crawl.
Who did it better, Thrift
Come
or
on
Arey?
now.
Yeah.
Harry definitely did it better.
But there's a place for different bed fishing baits. And I've even seen it to where you take a giant swim bait or something just to get the fish riled up.
Right.
But every fish is a little bit different, and there's not a secret bed fishing bait out there, in my opinion. Like Thrift said, a lot of guys will say whatever their sponsor bait is because you can literally, if a fish is in the right mood, you could catch him on a hot dog weenie. I mean, you really can. But some of the things that Cook did to irritate those fish into biting was pretty cool. I think he showed the world a lot of really cool tips about sight fishing. One thing is he made a lot of blind casts to a lot of fish that he had located. And,
Stayed way back.
Right. And that's a big key to making sure that fish is comfortable in its environment, ready to protect the bed, because if it's aware of your presence, it gets kind of swirly and it gets tricky, and it can become a royal pain in the butt.
One thing I noticed, which Drew never did, he caught every fish he caught on that Tilapia Magic Fighting Frog.
Yeah, it's a big bite bait, which is one of the sponsors, and it's a good bait. It is a good bait.
I mean, obviously, I think Rojas designed it, and I know he's caught a lot of bedfish on it too. But that's one thing that I think I do. It kind of surprised me is I like to have a couple contrasting colors, because I have seen that change the mood of a fish. You've got usually if I'm bed fishing, I've got 3 different colors of the same bait tied on just to give a different contrast and see what that fish is interested in. I want something that's natural, like a green pumpkin or a watermelon. I want a bait that's white, and then I want a dark bait like a black and blue flake or black and red bait, just to give that fish a different contrast. And I've seen times where you could pitch a white bait in the bed and the fish runs off and sets over 4 or 5 feet and never comes back in the bed as long as the bait's sitting there, and you wind it in and pitch that black bait or a green pumpkin bait in there, and the fish will bite it on the first cast. Yeah,
that's a big deal. So we'll fast forward into the tournament. I know, again, everybody who watched the event knew how it went down, knew how it was won. What was interesting to me, and I sight fished 100% of the event. Now, the first day, so the last day of practice, things slowly started to warm up, but there wasn't a bunch of females rolling around. There wasn't a bunch of females cruising. It was still like a ghost town.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I marked about 12 to 15 bucks, and I had about 14 to 16 pounds of bucks marked.
Right.
One thing about Santee's got a lot of big 3+ pound bucks.
Yeah, a lot.
And in the anticipation that I had located some areas that I felt like had the potential to fill up.
Right.
Well, late on day one, magic started to happen.
Yep.
And I rolled up into a pocket, and I literally saw like 10 brand new beds, 10 brand new fish. One had 3 on it. A couple had females rolling already. And I'm sitting here going, huh, here we go.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here
Fixed to get
thinking,
nasty.
after my practice, I'm going, I need 20 pounds. I need 20 pounds. 20 pounds will be great.
Right.
And I had 22 something, and I think there was 16 bags over 20 the first day. And the cut weight was almost 16 pounds after day one. Well, we're all thinking in our head, well, most people were thinking, I wasn't because I know Santee.
Right.
Everybody's thinking in their head, and Scott Squared and I are sitting there talking at the house that night, and we're always going, what's it going to take to make the cut? What's it going to take to make the cut? And they're like, well, you double -1. I'm like, whoa.
No, you don't -1. It's
Before
that
you double the weights here and -1, how about we double the weights and possibly add 1?
Probably
And-
add 3.
Well, and I said that kind of thinking, I'm probably not right, but I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
And not only did the weights double, but they went up like 1.5 pounds.
Yep.
It took almost 34 pounds to make the cut, the top 47 cut at Santee Cooper for 2 days. And that's unheard of. But like Thrift said, Santee is a very unique lake, and when it's time, it's time.
Yep.
That lake fished unbelievable. And the final day, I only weighed in 4 for like 16 something. I had a 7-pounder, a couple 3s, and then
Yeah.
a small one. And I actually passed up a couple fish earlier in that day.
Well, you knew you needed a big one.
I
to
did.
Get
I
up in
did.
that
I mean,
cut.
after I saw what them boys up top were doing, I'm like,
Right.
I need 30 pounds just to have a shot.
Right.
The last day. And
And you don't want to waste 30 minutes on a 3-pounder.
Right,
When
that's
you
right.
could possibly find an 8-pounder 50 feet down the bank.
that's right. That's right. And
I
I
would've
didn't
done
have
the
a
same
fish.
thing.
I didn't have a fish at, I want to say it was about 11:30 or 12 o'clock. And I found that 7-pounder.
Yeah.
And I found it had like a 2.5 pound buck. And I couldn't get that 7-pounder to go. And I've seen it go both ways. And, this is a myth. A lot of guys say, never catch the buck, never
Yeah,
catch the
that's
buck. That's a myth. Well, sometimes if that, in
You
my
never know
experience-
what's going to happen.
Right. If that female's like brand new, I've seen them vacate pretty quick. But a lot of times I'll snatch that buck and that female is catchable, but you got to catch her quick.
Yeah.
Like if you mess around with her for 30 minutes,
You're probably not going to catch it.
right. If you catch that buck, and here's just another bed fishing tip, in my opinion, in my experience, you catch that buck and you stick him in your live well, I'd say you got a good 5 minutes of a really good chance of catching him.
Yeah.
But after that, it
Like
starts
she's
to
going to be
decline.
aggressive for 5
That's
or
right.
10 minutes.
That's right. And so don't waste time. Don't mess around. Don't spend a lot of time calling if you're calling. Get that fish in the live well. Get back after her ASAP. And be ready because she's going to be ready.
Yeah.
All right. So Santee took over 100 pounds to win. Unbelievable tournament.
Yep.
We actually hit one right for once. And it was a fun tournament, needless to say. The guy, what I was going to say is we talk about forward facing sonar and how it's changed the game. Forward facing sonar, you look at the Redcrest, you look at the Classic, you look at Santee, and that's what blew my mind. Luke Palmer, who was catching giant bags, not looking at them,
Right.
flipping the cypress trees, and repeatedly flipping the cypress trees because his forward-facing sonar was telling him there was 1 or 2 bass on that tree.
Right.
When in old days, we would have made, a flip, maybe 2?
Yeah, maybe each side of a tree. and
Maybe
went on
each side of the
back.
tree and
Yeah.
bounce. But he would make 8 to 10 casts repeatedly to some of those trees, and he would catch the buck or
Right.
the female and catch the other one. And, that has really changed things. And I got mixed feelings about it. I don't really know. I'm still confused about the whole thing because it's just crazy. Like, it's mind-boggling to think whether we're fishing. It was cool to see Bobby win that without the
Yeah,
use of
without the
forward-facing
use of
sonar.
forward-facing
So that
sonar.
still gives us some hope, right?
Yeah, right.
Where it's
We
not
still got
all
hope.
going to be based off of new technology.
See, and that's like I'm always late to the party. So I haven't contended in a tournament with forward-facing sonar until this one, and I finally start catching them on forward-facing sonar, and it's one not on forward-facing sonar.
Well, I mean that I get asked a lot, and I'm sure you do too. Do you think forward-facing sonar is taking more pressure off bank fish and old school type fish to where they become more of a factor? And yeah, it's like the Alabama rig. Everything cycles. It seems like.
Yeah, fish get accustomed to things. Like they adapt and learn pretty quickly if they're getting messed with all the time.
And I've already seen to where these fish, especially at Hartwell, are super sensitive to that sonar.
Yeah, exactly.
They get within a certain distance and they kind of shy away or they won't bite.
Right.
But if you keep them outside of a certain distance, you can catch them.
Right.
So it's interesting. It's been a lot of it's been a learning curve for me. I'm sure it has been for you, as every professional angler out there, or any angler in general that's using the forward-facing sonar. But I know it's 8:00. I know we didn't answer every question on here. Let's hit a couple questions real quick, and then we'll go to our trivia question. So, Ryan Sowers, I think Drew Cook would give me some tips on how to stand on a trolling motor bracket. It wasn't the trolling motor bracket that got me. You need to watch.
Walt told you to take it easy on it.
He did. I called him while I was down there.
We need to get Walt on here and get his opinion on his professional medical opinion of him telling Matt to take it easy on his torn calf muscle, and Matt up there perched up on his trolling motor like a blue heron.
It took to do good in the tournament or not?
Oh yeah, I'd have done the same thing. But we got to give you a hard time just because Walt was here.
I did call him while I was at Santee one night because I was a little concerned because I was like, I put a compression sock on and it wasn't unbearable. It was okay.
Yeah.
What I was doing obviously was stupid. Putting weight on it all day, standing up all day, standing on my trolling motor bracket, standing on my depth finders. Walt hadn't seen the videos. He'd probably cuss me out if he saw what I was doing with my leg. And falling, that was even better for it. But I did come in, and it'd be hot to the touch. It'd be swelled up. It'd be mushy. Like it was like building up blood and stuff in there. And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I called him one night because I was a little concerned. I was thinking like blood clot or something. But I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And he said, well, you're probably a little past the chance of a blood clot, but that's just your muscle bleeding, and you're just putting too much stress on it and things like that. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, okay, so it's exactly what I thought it was. I'm just not taking care of it.
Right. You're not listening to Walt's. You're not listening to Walt.
It's much better now, and we're on the up and up.
See, if I was Walt, next time you, like, knock on wood, hopefully you don't get hurt again. But next time, if you do go to Walt, I would be like, well, what good's it going to do for me to tell you what to do? You're not going to do it anyway.
He knew. He said, when do you got to go fish again? I said, I think I said, I got to leave next Friday. And he said, oh, like the next Friday. And I'm like, no, like this Friday. And he's like, oh. Like, well, I got to go. I got to do. I did use my butt seat in practice.
Hey, that's good.
It's 20-something degrees. I use my butt seat. I use my main seat a lot in practice. Al Smalls asked, "Is white good on Santee?" Brian touched on that earlier. If you watch the show back later on YouTube, multiple colors on the deck. I'm with Brian. I always have multiple colors on the deck.
Yeah, and you always need a white bait. I mean, you want contrasting colors. That's what we talked about. And don't sit there and give the fish the same bait over and over and over, like especially if they're nipping at it, because a lot of times if you've got a bed fish going and you're like, I can't tell you how long it took me to learn this, because I would be flipping the same bait, same color over and over and over, and the fish would nip it, and next thing you know, it's been 25 minutes and this fish is nipping your bait every time, and you're thinking, oh, he's going to eat it next cast, and he nips at it again, doesn't eat it. When that's happening, put that rod down, pick up another color, and pitch it in there real quick. And a lot of times, just that change, just showing him something he hasn't seen before, he'll engulf it on the first cast. So, switch it up, constantly be changing it, or constantly change is what I do. And it seems like they'll bite it without thinking about it sometimes.
No big deal, just bleeding out from the inside, Justin said about my calf. Pretty much what Walt told me. Yeah, it's just your muscle hemorrhaging. I'm like, is this bad? Is this bad?
I think you need to put a drain tube in it for him. We need to do that right here on the show.
It's fine now, y'all. It's not swollen and mushy anymore.
Dang it.
It's getting better. Okay, real quick, just because this is a great question from Wyatt Burkhalter. I hope I didn't butcher your name, Wyatt. And I've heard this brought up on live by multiple commentators. I'm gonna get your 2 cents on it first, and then I'm gonna give you mine. But so the topic about forward-facing sonar and it being a sight bass, what do y'all think about the idea going around of fish having to be hooked inside the mouth, looking at them on your forward-facing sonar? So right now the rules state that sight bass,
Visually, with your eyeballs.
seeing the bass visually with these eyeballs, not through a sonar or electronics, on a bed or cruising or whatever, has to be hooked inside the mouth. Okay, that's the rules right now as we stand. You want me to go first? You want to go?
Either way, I'll go first.
Well, I've already got these thoughts rolling in my head.
All right, roll with it.
And I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet.
Roll with it.
It's no different than looking at one on 2D sonar and dropping a drop shot on him 10 years ago. It's the same thing. It's no different. So no, I don't think he has to be hooked inside the mouth because I can't see the fish eat my bait. Yes, now one day if they paint a picture so good that it looks like exactly what I'm looking at Bryan Thrift picking his sundrop up and taking a sip of it, that's a little bit different, but it's not that good yet, okay? It still looks like a blob, a tic-tac, or whatever you want to call it out there, moving around and chasing my bait, just like a 2D sonar fish did 10 years ago. So do I think that should be a rule? No, I don't think that should be a rule.
No.
I'm going to leave it at that.
And if you think about the whole concept of the forward-facing sonar, I mean, not the concept, but what it actually does, it's kind of like a flashlight shining out. So the farther that fish is away from your transducer, the wider that beam gets. So if you're at 40, 50, 60 feet and you've got a 5-degree angle of beam coming out of that transducer, when you get out to 60 or 70 feet, you may be seeing a 20 or 30 foot path of water and it looked like the fish is right in front of you, where in actual reality that fish could be 10 or 15 feet to the left of your bait or 10 or 15 feet to the right of your bait. So if it was a narrow, like definitive 2-foot section of sonar, yes, I could see where that might be a plausible argument. But when you're talking about a cone angle that's going out and infinitely getting wider as it gets farther from the source, I don't see how they can ever do that, because you don't know exactly where you're at. Like when you get out 70 feet, there could be 3 or 4 bass out there, and you're looking at one of them and you miss it by 10 or 15 feet and catch a totally different bass that you're not even looking at.
That's what I was getting ready to say. More often than not, if you watch these guys catch these fish on a jerkbait on their forward-facing sonar out of a brush pile or whatever, or just a point, bluff end, whatever it is, 9 times out of 10, there's a group of fish there. There's 2,
Correct.
3, 4, 5. It's a wolf pack of fish, right? So you don't know which one's even going to bite your bait. You just see them just doing this all around your bait, and when your line goes tight,
You got one.
you got one. I mean, it's no different than before. So until you're visually looking at that fish like you do when they're on the bed or when one's cruising down the bank in super clear water, I don't see that becoming a rule.
No,
and if it
I
does,
don't either.
I think you're going to see an uproar.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and I guess it, one person could ruin it for all of us, but like in a shallow water scenario, like I guess you could maybe try to snag one. I don't think like
It'd still be hard.
It would be
though.
hard to do, and it would be very noticeable that that's what you were trying to do, and it would look very bad on yourself. So I don't see how they could ever do that. But
Yeah, it'd take more skill to do that than it would just to catch him. normally.
right, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Now, like, I mean, you apply it to other scenarios and other fish, like, one thing I thought of was, well, just being at Grand Lake, where it's, pretty much a historic paddlefish lake. I mean, a lot of people catch paddlefish there, snagging them. And you think about a paddlefish being 5 or 6 foot long, could you maybe actually snag one of those off a forward-facing sonar? You probably could. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's yeah. I just don't see that becoming a rule anytime soon.
Nope, I don't either.
Now, with the way technology's advanced over the past decade, who knows what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years? But
Right.
worry about that when we get there.
Right. I mean, I feel like there's going to have to be a stopping point sometime. There are going to have to be some type of limitations placed, especially at the professional level. I mean, it's no different than college baseball players being able to use metal bats and pros have to use wooden bats. Like, I think
Perfect.
There does some sooner or later there's going to have to be a distinction where, at a professional level, maybe the top of the technology is not allowed, but I don't know. I'm fine either way. I don't care what they decide.
We're going to fish. We're going to try to catch
Yeah.
them regardless of what rules they are. All right. Trivia question time.
What are we giving away?
The giveaway tonight is sponsored by our title and presenting sponsor, Angler's Choice Marine, who
Yep.
actually has quite a few new Ranger boats in stock.
Yep.
Give away a Ranger? Thanks, Trent.
What?
That's awesome.
All the White River Marine brands, but I believe the Martinsville location does have a couple R boats in stock, if I'm not mistaken. I know there's a location, if y'all forgot, there's one in Spindale, North Carolina, there's one in Lexington, North Carolina, and there's one in Martinsville, Virginia. And they have a lot of boats. They got great customer service, a lot of good mechanics, take care of you after the sale. Brian and I have been working with them for years and years.
Yep.
And they are good people.
Also got a pretty sharp tackle store at the Martinsville store.
All of them are getting there
Yeah,
now.
all of them are getting there.
But
and
they got some hard to find stuff at that one.
they do. They do.
But if you're in the Martinsville location and you like to buy fishing tackle, which I know all of you do, do yourself a favor and swing in there. And they got a full lineup of all kinds of apparel, hats. I know they got all the cool new AFCO gear in there. I was in there not too long ago when I got my new boat. We shot some videos on that for the open house. But the tackle selection is pretty amazing.
It really. Every time I go in there, it costs me like $200.
Yeah, that's what.
Every time.
I don't even buy that much tackle, and I left there with a few items last time I was in there.
Last time I went in there, I forget what it had. Trent had like some colors and some jerk baits I'd never seen before, and I'm like, how you get this stuff?
Oh, they do. Yeah, they get some really hard to find colors and things that you only find like overseas. And anyway, I know the guy Steve, and I can't remember Steve's last name, that kind of handles their tackle department there.
Right.
Does a really good job. I think he's up to date on all the cool stuff, the new
Yeah,
things.
he stays up with the trends.
Yep, and he
and they're
keeps-
fishermen.
That's
why
right.
it's
They're
so
all
good.
fishermen.
They're fishermen.
Steve's a big swim bait guy. I do know that, and they have some really cool glide
Yeah.
baits, swim baits, all kind of cool stuff there. But anyway, if you're in the area, check them out. And if you're in the market for a new boat, be sure to check out Angler's Choice Marine. All right, trivia question time. The giveaway, which is sponsored by Angler's Choice Marine, is going to be a performance shirt or hat, or a performance shirt or hoodie, and an Angler's Choice hat. They will ship that directly to the winner. Y'all just be sure to message our Facebook page your shipping information. Whoever wins tonight, just send us a message on Facebook so we have your address that we can ship out your prize to. So here we go. You ready, Thrift?
I'm ready. Do you know the answer?
I
Don't
know
say
the
it.
answer.
Don't say it. I don't know that I
I
know
have
the
a
answer.
little bit of faith in me.
That's what I'm asking.
Walt, you're not eligible. Jeff, you're not eligible.
I don't even know the
eligible.
question.
I don't think I know the
This
answer.
is what I should do
So,
every week, is
Matt's calling the answer tonight because I
you
think
don't know the
I
answer?
think I know, but I'm not 100%.
Okay.
Matt's calling.
I'm calling the answer. First one that I see come across my feed, that is the correct answer, will be the winner, and I'll announce that. All right, here we go. So, there's been only one angler in the history of BASS tournaments, tour level events, Elite Series, and whatever it was called back in the day, be it Bassmaster Tour, Invitationals, whatever, tour level events, to reach the century mark without
I
catching
got a fly on my sundrop. Sorry.
without catching a limit every day of the tournament. So only one angler to hit the century mark without catching a limit every single day of the tournament. Who is that angler? I need to know the first and last name of that angler.
Somebody already answered.
First and last name?
Yeah, I need to know the first and last name.
Okay.
Just give me. That'll work, actually. Sorry.
We've got a winner
I
already.
said first and last name because the first name could go with a couple different anglers, but the last name is very unique, and we do have a winner. I'm going to award it to Jay Hood.
Jay Hood.
Jay Hood. So that was God. They did get it quick.
Oh, I kind of knew. I figured it was going to
So
be
that
quick.
was Caleb Cuphall. Caleb came off the Santee tournament, finished second in the event, broke the 100-pound mark. Did not weigh in a limit every day, which is pretty amazing.
That is pretty
To
amazing.
break 100 pounds. But if you can do it, you can do it at Santee. If there's a place
You
for
very.
He finished second with 100 pounds, Walt.
Well,
Isn't that-
you know the Toyota I won at Santee in 16. I didn't have a limit one day.
And you won it.
Yep, I had 79 and a half for 3 days and didn't have a limit one day.
So you'd have probably hit 100 without a limit. Or was it getting bad?
No, it would have, unless something like bad happened.
You would have hit 100
Yeah, pretty-
without catching 20 bass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there you have it. There's another fellow that might could have done it. All right. Jay Hood.
That was pretty good. That was
Sorry.
quick.
All I have is Jay Hood. So Jay Hood, whoever you are, Mr. Hood or Mrs. Could be a Jennifer Hood. I don't know. Send us
could.
your shipping information to our Facebook page, and we'll we'll get Angler's Choice to send you out your prize. Oh, send us, because it's an Angler's Choice shirt and hat, send us the size shirt you would prefer, and make sure they get the right size out to you also. So congrats to Jay Hood on the W with the trivia tonight. All right, so I know you leave. I leave Saturday.
I'm
You
leaving
leave-
Tuesday.
You leave Tuesday. Definitely no show next week.
Possibly the next.
I'll be here the week after that.
I possibly will be here.
When does your tournament end? Does it end on Monday or Sunday?
I don't know.
If you
really
make it all the
don't
way to
know.
the final day, which everybody hopes you do,
I don't know.
you will fish till. If you leave on Tuesday.
I leave
When-
Tuesday.
when's
Practice starts the 7th, so we'll practice 7th and 8th.
Oh no! Wait a minute. So that's like Thursday, right?
Yeah. So no, if I make it to the finals, I'll
You
definitely
will
not be
not
on
be here.
Tuesday.
All right, we're gonna do our best to have a show, and I'll get a guest if Thrift is absent. If Thrift is absent, that's a good sign. It means he's still fishing.
And making money and catching bass.
and making money and catching bass. That's what
or
we're trying to
catching
do.
bass and making money.
Try
Either
to
way.
catch bass and make money. That is the goal.
That is the goal.
Guys, appreciate y'all tuning in, and gals. We had a good number of questions, good number of viewers tonight. Again, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We never said this before, but be sure to do that now. Hit the what's it called, the notification bell. I got to get used to that.
There's a bell.
That-
I
Jeff,
don't
are you
see a
tired?
bell.
Jeff's
Yeah.
over here scratching his head. You got some Bojangles sweet tea over there. Chug a little bit of that. Get you
It's
fired
empty.
up.
Sweet ice.
He's already replaced it with something from
All
the
right,
shelf back there.
So we'll be at tournaments next week, guys. But appreciate everybody tuning in. And when we can't go fishing, what we gonna do, Thrift?
Talk fishing.
All right, see y'all.